Hello, everybody. I got a couple of guests here. We're going to talk about the movie Crossroads, 1986. I want to welcome Jamie. She's from louderthanmost.com. And Catherine, she's from creepyamericana.net. Both of them are experts on Southern lore, witchcraft, voodoo, the occult, what have you. So, hello, welcome.
Hi there.
All right. So, let's just jump right in and I'll kind of try to lead. Jamie, what are your initial opinions about this movie?
Well, it's interesting. I actually remember watching it when I was much younger. And I was far more easily convinced that Ralph Macchio was a tough guy.
He's a Karate Kid. He's a great.
That's probably.
Tiger Beat has fallen flat in my 40s.
Oh, that's true.
Mm-hmm.
What about you, Catherine?
I definitely do remember watching this movie when I was younger, and I do know that it partially inspired that short story that I wrote when I was in high school that I won like some
a major
contest.
award, a major award, like
yes,
a Fragile lamp or something.
From
yes,
Italy?
a major, yes, a
Must be
major
Italian.
award.
Yeah,
Mhm.
so that's good. I watched this movie, of course, when it came out, and I liked it a lot, you know. But they kind of just glossed over it. When I watched it again recently, I noticed they kind of glossed over some trauma and stuff. I know y'all picked up on that.
Mhm.
We're not going to get too deep and go down that rabbit hole tonight. But I liked it. I think it's a good tale. You know, it's loosely based in lore or truth, depending on your feelings.
I wouldn't have noticed, being deeply Southern and not in the bad way. I would not have noticed the Southern stereotypes and tropes that were embedded in there when I was younger.
A lot of those, like he's stupid, but he don't deserve to have his money taken. That one.
Yeah. Like the bar scene, like, you know.
I want to talk about that bar scene later. I want to come back to that. Me and Catherine were chatting a little bit before, and I want to definitely come back to the bar scene and that actor. So let's just jump right in. The main guy is Eugene.
I did not know that until way into the movie, until they met Jamie Gertz's character.
Yeah.
I was just like, when I was taking my notes, I was just saying Ralph Macchio because I didn't know what his name was.
Yeah, Eugene, a well-known blues man from Long Island. I tried to look it up. I found a interview one time where B.B. King, they asked him the question, can you be white and play the blues? And he went through, he goes like, I've got this guy and he's white, he plays the organ. I got this guy, he's white, he plays the horn. I got this guy, he's white. Can you be white and play the blues? Yeah, but it's a lot easier if you're black. So I don't really think about Ralph Macchio as trying to appropriate culture in this, you know, trying to take somebody else's culture. Yeah,
It wasn't written that way.
Yeah.
It wasn't written as someone who was trying to be something he wasn't. I mean, here's a kid that was, in Juilliard, classical guitarist, but it would make sense that he would also have a deep appreciation for something that was so deeply emotional as a music genre.
Right. Good point.
And while he hadn't had like a whole lot of life experience, he still seemed to have some like family turmoil and things like that. So he had experienced some things, and I don't think that it's necessarily that, you have to experience everything, like all the negative stuff that happens to Black folks in the U.S. to experience something that makes you feel connected to the music.
Right. Okay. Well, Joe Seneca played Willie Brown, or Blind Willie Brown, and he was very angry at the beginning. I mean, the devil had his soul, so I can give him a little slack, but he was pretty mean. And I've met some
crotchety.
I've met some old irascible guys like that,
and he's from Mississippi.
Yeah. Well, he was living up north though, so he moved away.
Well, you left Mississippi.
Yeah, but I'm kind and sweet and benevolent. Well, I thought he did a real good job.
I thought he did a really good job. What I found interesting when I was reading is that Sammy Davis Jr. was to do a screen test for that role.
Really?
Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
That could have been interesting.
I could not have seen him as Willie Brown, but I could have seen him as the devil, as Scratch.
Sammy Davis died pretty young, So he was. He wouldn't. They would have had to made him look a lot older to be this character, and I don't know how he would have pulled it off. I mean, he was a good actor. I saw him one time on Rifleman, believe it or not, playing a cowardly gunslinger. So he was a pretty solid actor. Even though he just sung in most of his movies, but he probably could have done a good job with it. Okay, let's talk about Francis Jamie Gert.
Going back to Willie Brown. Willie Brown being angry. I think the characterization of that, I think it was executed very hastily, but I think the intent was to show not only that he'd sold his soul to the devil as some kind of foreshadowing, but also that aspect of the pain that you suffer to truly feel the blues or to connect with the blues. Because it's one thing to listen to a song and love it, and another thing to connect with it. Same thing with literature. As you get older and have more life experience, you can still love and connect with the same literary piece, musical piece, but your connections and the meaning may change with your experience. So I think that was part of the characterization of his anger. Like, you're 17 years old. What do you mean you love the blues? You don't know anything about the blues because your life, because he makes a comment in the movie about, oh, I'm sorry, Eugene, that your life has been so hard.
Okay.
Which to a lot of people could seem it could seem very dismissive to a 17-year-old that has parents that are uninvolved and has had some, hard times. But at the age where Willie is, that he's lost friends, he's losing his life, has a lot of regret. It's a different perspective.
Okay, I can certainly agree with that. I was thinking though, like Robert Johnson wrote that song, Hellhounds on My Trail, I'm thinking of these guys as tortured, just basically living in fear and just running ahead of the devil, and I thought that was part of Willie's anger too.
My question is, the whole thing with selling your soul and you like dying young and the hellhounds after you. How come Willie got to be so old? Just because he left Mississippi? That's all it takes?
Selling your soul to the devil does not mean that you die young.
Yeah, that was Robert. He was a philanderer. He was dating other men's wives and stuff.
Right. Yeah.
Well, the whole, they don't know for sure how he died. Right. They suspect murder, and he did have that reputation. But yeah, Catherine, there was a version, I don't remember what movie this is, but there was a movie about Robert Johnson that he actually hadn't died. And they say that when he did, like, he was like barking like a dog. And
oh, I've heard that. Yeah, going crazy with the hellhounds. I don't remember what that was, but
which, if that was true, he probably would have had syphilis, because that's that tracks. And I don't know why I know that or where that came from, but that's somewhere in there.
Yeah, well, as they were using the Tuskegee people to test syphilis on, that's not so uncommon.
Without giving them treatment when they knew how to treat it.
Yeah, right. So that kind of makes sense.
But I think the tortured soul aspect, yes. And maybe part of it, anger towards anybody young, is tied to the fact that he wasted his youth.
Right. And nobody gets what they want. He tells him, Scratch's assistant tells him, nobody gets what they think they were going to get. Okay. So that's Joe. Let's talk about Francis Jamie Gertz, our favorite star wannabe vampire.
Star.
Lost Boys,
I love Jamie Gertz in Lost Boys.
Oh, she was great. She did a good job in this movie too, but you think she phoned it? You think she phoned it in?
I do. I mean, it was not the Lost Boys, and it was not Less Than Zero.
Okay, well let me take up for her for a second. She just delivered the lines they wrote for her. She didn't write it.
It just really, she fell very flat to me as a character.
Yeah. Well, it seems like they tagged it on. They just stuck her in there for, to carry the story a little bit further.
Because he had to have his heart broken by a woman.
Absolutely. There you go. She's really just kind of a sexy lamp in a way where it's like you could replace her.
You're really stuck on the Christmas Story tonight. At one point, I can't find the quote exactly, but he's like, here it is. Willie, I came down here to learn a lost song, not to get slapped in the face by an 80-year-old man. And in thinking about Ralph Macchio versus, 1986 when I was 7 years old versus now when I'm 45, he was always kind of getting knocked around. That really became like a typecasting for him because of the character he played in The Outsiders.
Well, the
Stay gold, bunny
character-
boy. But he kind of was stuck there. Even if he evolved and toughened up at the end of these movies or whatever, that was kind of a thing for him.
Y'all don't remember when comic books were a nickel, but
No,
in the
Dad.
back of
You
them,
don't either.
they had these. I do. I
No, you
damn sure do.
don't.
Yes, I damn sure do.
You
I
damn
remember
sure
when
don't.
they were. I remember when they were a nickel, a dime, and a quarter. Okay, I don't know
A
3
quarter,
cents
I
or anything.
believe.
No, I lived through all that. But anyway, back in them days, in the back of the comic book, they had these Joe Wilder ads. I don't know, but he was muscle building, and a 98-pound guy gets sand kicked in his face, and the girlfriend taken away from him. Gets the weights and builds up, pushes the bully down, and that's Ralph Macchio in every movie. He's the 98-pound weakling, gets sand kicked in his face, and then he builds up and puts the bully down.
By the way, how old was Ralph Macchio in this movie? Because he has like almost always looked the same age in like every movie.
Yeah. Finally, I've been watching Cobra Kai and waiting for the last season to come out. It's pretty good, but he's starting to show some age. He's looking a little older.
I mean, he's not like who's the guy that plays Ant-Man?
Paul Rudd.
Paul Rudd is not aged. So actually, Ralph Macchio, Catherine, is currently 62 years old.
Yeah, he's around
making
my age.
him only a couple years older than Dad. So, Dad, how old were you in 87, 86?
I can't do that kind of math.
I was 7. So what's
26 and 7. Oh, 30. 27, 28, maybe around in that way. Don't give me
26,
those.
Dad?
Okay, don't give me those hard math questions.
I was 26.
What is this, a test? All right. So, Scratch's assistant, Joe Morton, I thought he did a good job. I've seen that guy.
I love that guy.
Yeah, he was in Eureka, played Henry in Eureka. Really good actor, but he really got that shucking, like the trash talking down. Can't talk, little man. Bet you can't play none either.
And all that big flashy grin that you associate that handsomeness with the devil.
He was a really solid part of that movie. And then going down, Scratch or Legba, whatever he was going by, Robert Judd. That dude was only in 3 movies. This is the best devil I've ever seen in a movie.
He really is, I think, the best devil. He's phenomenal. The way, the sharpness of his features and the expressiveness that he has with his eyes.
That one tooth that's sticking out a little bit. It wasn't a gold tooth.
It wasn't a gold tooth, right?
It wasn't a gold tooth. It was just a tooth that stuck out a little bit. Yeah.
So, when Willie Brown sees the assistant and he's like, when's he coming by? And he's like, who? And he's like, Legba. And, his assistant's like, he doesn't go by that name anymore. He changed it to Scratch. And I'm like, okay, so the devil has definitely inspired Sean Puffy Combs.
Scratch, I mean, I know that's in The Devil and Daniel Webster. That one goes way back. That's an old name, Mr.
That is
Scratch.
an old name. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, surprised. And so.
And Legba actually, depending on the practice that believes in Legba, isn't necessarily this evil demonic character. It's just more of like a intermediary, like a communication kind of thing, depending, but it is often associated with the devil now, present day.
Right. Okay. Well, who wants to go over the crossroads and why that's important? The actual crossroads.
Okay, so Catherine, I'm sorry. Tell me to shut up.
Catherine's being quiet in the middle.
Teacher now. I'm not an English teacher anymore.
Shut up. See, do just what I did right there.
No, go for it.
I'm actually going to offer a little bit of a different perspective that's not talked about frequently enough. And that's why, other than how they get started, word of mouth, oral tradition, the importance of folklore, especially relating to things like the blues. If you've been to Greenville, Mississippi, there's not much to it. But the amount of musicians and other artists that have come from that area, I mean, it's phenomenal and definitely changed the course of American music as we know it. But I think because that story is so intriguing, because people like that, playing with that idea of the, evil versus good and making the bad deal. And so the story got spread. And I think that really helped keep Greenville, Mississippi culturally relevant. I think that story getting spread as part of like the urban legends or the folklore is so rooted in that area and people seek it out and they want to go there. I mean, I love that place just because of the cultural significance and the stories that come with it and the richness of the music. And I think it's all tied, but I think just the mystique of Robert Johnson at the Crossroads propels the interest and keeps it rooted in also giving credit to where blues originated, who originated blues. You can't take it away because this story, this lore is so strong.
Out on the plantations and the people coming in, that's a way off of the plantation, singing the blues in these juke joints. I was going to go with the more anthropological. In African lore, a crossroad is a place where you have to make a decision, and demons waited by the crossroads to jump on you when you were in a weak and indecisive point. And then it came to America and got transmuted into Christian religion with the devil at the crossroads, or what that's where it goes back away past our area. And also the other thing I was going to say is it's that train line that runs from New Orleans through Hattiesburg, up there, up into the Delta, Greenville, up into Memphis, and then Chicago. So, I mean, that's another thing that did move the Delta blues and the New Orleans Dixieland jazz and all that up and down, connected it with what was going on in Chicago, and it just spread out there.
Which is ultimately where Eugene goes. He makes that next step.
Yeah. Well, that's where they're going. They're going to Chicago, right? After they finish. Talk about the Crossroads.
About the Crossroads?
You ever been to the Crossroads?
I have not. You guys have.
Yeah. I know that we have. Yes, we have.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
A dirt road with a lone tree.
No, it is not.
I can imagine, yeah. I did think it was very funny, though, in the movie where he held up that drawing of it and he was like, have you seen this? And she's like, I don't know. It's just like a little crayon drawing. Why would I recognize that?
He was really serious about it.
Okay. I'm going to go into this a little bit. I thought it because like Brigadoon or something, like when you cross that fog bank into the thing, you know this place? Have you crossed that threshold yourself? And the young lady, I'm going to mess her name up, Akosa Busai, the young girl at the boarding house, my grandmother knew you and all that.
Yeah.
Do you recognize this place? Have you, been there? And I thought that, like, you didn't just drive down the road. You did that Brigadoon thing where you switched into another dimension or whatever. So, like, have you seen this place? Oh, yeah, I recognize that place because I've been through it.
He asked her if she knew, like, the language that he was talking. Like, do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And she's like, yeah, a little bit, but she had to get somebody else to take him.
Well, she just sent somebody else to take him. She just didn't go there. I mean,
Yeah.
But she, I thought they were going to almost, like, I thought that was going to be like some code switching, like, you know what I'm talking about? Do you know what this picture means? And he doesn't know, or Ralph or Eugene was so stupid at that point.
I think it, again, something I wouldn't have thought about at all when I was younger. But being Southern and half Appalachian people, well, I guess Dad's 100% Appalachian, but our culture is notoriously superstitious and are very, very funny. We are funny about, ooh, you mess with that? Like you either do or you don't.
Right.
And people normally, especially in Mississippi and more rural areas, would have had more of a shunning reaction. Like I felt like she knew, but she wasn't.
She didn't want to have anything to do with it.
She didn't want to have anything to do with it.
The first lady.
Mm-hmm.
The daughter.
Not the young girl.
The daughter.
Granddaughter.
The daughter. Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh, really? I thought that she was like, I took her to be like the Marie Laveau's granddaughter, and write in the stuff and knows all about it. Yeah, you want to go there? Right there. Just because she didn't drive the guy out because she has to stay there and take care of the hotel. But
I mean, but who in the South doesn't know of that story? I mean, that has been a long-standing folklore anyway.
Oh, yeah, you're right. But the location has been in dispute a lot.
And, well, again, it was a crayon drawing with no identifiable markers.
Highway 61.
It's a tree.
And Highway 49, right?
Yeah.
Highway 61, Highway 49 in Mississippi. Grew up right by it.
Does the train go through? Does the train follow 49?
No, I think I was trying to remember that. I think it jogs out to Meridian and then goes back in, but I'm not positive. And because, there was a lot of music came out of Meridian too. And I do believe the train jogged that way before it went back across the state.
And then, of course, Greenville's not very far from Memphis.
Of course, that's a good draw, play the smaller clubs and then go into the big city. All right. So, Catherine, What'd you think of the bartender when they were in the bars, but was really Natchez? That was River Street down in Natchez. I've been in that place many times. What'd you think of that bartender?
Well, I thought he was probably one of the best actors in the movie. He was pretty funny. But yeah, this was the part where Jamie Gertz's character is, trying to like rob guys of their wallet or whatever. And when things start popping off, he gets out his shotgun and he's like, that man might be stupid, but he doesn't deserve to have his wallet taken because, he's got a wife and kids at home. So you just give that wallet back and get on out of here. It was pretty funny. But I had just recently read a book. I think it's called The Deepest South of All, and I forget the author, but he was a British guy who moved to Mississippi, and he was kind of like immersing himself in the culture of Mississippi and Natchez in particular. So it was just interesting when you said that bar was in Natchez and then you'd spend time there, because Natchez is like such a interesting, weird place with its garden clubs and, it's pageants. I forgot what it was called. There's some kind of pageants that they put on. Pilgrimage. That's what it is. Pilgrimage.
Yeah. Well, I've spent a lot of times in Natchez.
I was like, didn't you go to Natchez like once a year or so?
At least once a year. Yeah, at least. And so I've spent weeks and weeks there, and that town's got more churches than it's got bars, but just barely, It's a weird little town. And it really, it had some places. That place, there was, I don't know what the proper term for him, but he was a short fella and a very short fella. And there was a bartender there, and that was a mean place. Me and Rolando thought we were going to be murdered there one night. I saw a college friend and I said hi to her, and her husband went crazy and started bashing the walls and screaming. And I'm like, we're going to die. We're going to die. He was between us and the door, but we made it out alive. Yeah. So that's a mean little bar sometimes. That's accidents. That's dreams. I got devils. I got hellhounds on my trail. They chase me all night.
Oh, to this day.
He sold his soul for his wonderful children.
Oh, well, I went to the Crossroads.
Bad Seedling Sisters.
I went to the Crossroads and I met with the devil and I said, I want to play the blues. The devil said, no problem. Signed the contract and he handed me a CD. Play this all you want.
Oh,
it never works out like you want it to. We're getting way off track. That bartender in that bar was Harry Carey Jr., son of the famous American actor Harry Carey, and he was part of John Wayne's crew. He was in The Seekers and a lot of movies like that with John Wayne. Great actor. And it was just such an odd role to see him pop up in the middle of this movie.
They need someone who could handle a gun.
Maybe. Well, he was good at that because he could actually ride a horse and shoot a gun, back in the day. So do we need to talk about any of these other actors? Anybody pop out that you want to talk about?
Yes, at the end in the concert. And Steve Vai actually played both parts musically. Ralph Macchio didn't.
That's what's right.
Oh, I thought Ry Crowder did the music, if I understand right. Steve Vai was part of Frank Zappa's band, the Mothers of Invention. Mm-hmm. Could certainly play the music, but I think he was just acting guitar face for a Ry Crowder tune.
Well, I hate to be a little mean, but I wrote in my notes, I thought that he looked like a cross between a Ramone, a Rolling Stone, and the Night Stalker.
Well, that was some serious guitar face, and I don't like guitar face.
I mean, Crowder did do what's his name? What is his name? Roddy? I mean, he was doing the soundtrack and stuff. I mean, yeah, he was on there.
I don't know.
Wait. Both audio parts in the guitar duel were played by Vai, showcasing his versatility as a player and famous virtuoso skills. See, Catherine? However, Macchio can actually play the guitar, and he did play in the shots seen in the movie.
Yeah, because, I always look for that in movies. I see, when they only show the face and then the hands and they don't show the wide shot. But they had a couple of wide shots of Macchio, like, actually doing some stuff. So I was wondering about that.
And
I didn't look it up, but...
Yeah, that's from a blog called The Music Man.
They don't lie on the internet.
Steve Vai looked like a total glam metal band reject. He really did. And I haven't actually looked at Steve Vai a lot. I know who he is. I know, it just, he wasn't really prevalent in music videos. But
yeah,
the
he seems like a
dancer-
musician, not necessarily like a rock star.
The woman dancing on stage.
Gretchen Palmer, known as the beautiful girl.
The beautiful girl.
Yes.
Very, very energetic. She did a great job dancing, but all I kept thinking was, get out of my personal space. Like, you're going to mess him up playing the guitar. Stop.
Ralph Macchio or the other guy?
Either of them.
Oh.
She was all of in there.
She was in the trouble bubble.
That's a good point. I'm glad you brought that up. So let's talk about that. How, you go down to Georgia and you lose as the devil, you lose your golden fiddle to some redneck kid, right? Did they kind of did the thing where she was like a distraction, to like enhance Stevie Vai and just distract from Eugene's playing, and then Willie jumped up with his harmonica to kind of level it out. And I was thinking, and the devil draws his bow across the strings and gave it an evil hiss, and a band of demons joined in. Yeah, so I was thinking
something like this.
Yeah. So they try to work that's what I thought was going on in my mind, And
it also, at that time, Willie's character had evolved so much. It speaks to the goodness that was deep down inside of him. Because now he's balancing out. He's bringing balance to the force. It's a good character foil.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I like that part where also right before he goes up there, when he sees that Eugene's going to be crushed, clearly this guy's too good for him. And he's like, I'm giving you my mojo. This is the last real Mississippi mojo there ever was. And it's like in the Last Dragon, where the instructor gives him his belt buckle and says, this once belonged to Bruce Lee, and it'll make you better. And everybody that sees it goes, that looks like a belt buckle.
That's because it's just to get you to feel like you.
But that is strong in folklore and superstition and some religions too. I mean, voodoo and different practices. Also, in the Appalachian culture, there's a little bag amulet that's supposed to bring
poultices and all that. But I just don't think Willie would have the last true one. He was lying.
He was living in Long Island.
Here's some junk I got, and I'm going to give it to you and tell you it's going to save you because you're in way over your head, kid. Is what I thought in that part.
What is that called psychologically, Catherine? Here's this magic thing. And you boost their confidence, the placebo effect.
I guess so, yeah. Placebo effect. Something like that.
I don't know. Trickery. I don't know what it is. Well,
Sorry,
does anybody
Catherine.
else want to say anything about, I want to go into the director in a minute, but does anybody want to say anything else about any of the actors?
Well, I was going to say, too, I know we gave Jamie Gertz a hard time earlier, too. And I remember this line specifically because I thought it was very, the way you guys were talking about Willie and stuff and how he is, really curmudgeon-y. She says something like, oh, I'm falling in love with the old man, too, but blah, 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 and he's a liar and all this. And so it was just kind of I feel like they gave her this dialogue to try to make it seem like, he was more lovable or whatever, it was a little bit
was she Eve sent by the devil to tempt Eugene out of believing in the old man? Did she show up as another trick to pull him out?
That got resolved really quick. The very next day it got resolved. You know what I mean? It was oh no, he's totally lying. He's full of shit. And then the next day they're in the bar watching him play and the lady's like, yeah, that's definitely him, and I knew him when I was growing up. And
so you heard about the Force 3 hours ago, and now you're a Jedi,
right? But you mentioned, I don't know why haven't we talked about the Crossroads Blues yet?
The Crossroads Blues.
He directly mentions Willie Brown in that song, Robert Johnson.
Oh yeah, yes. Oh, that's good. That's a good point. He called "Help Me, Willie Brown," right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Calls out to him to help him. And that's referenced. Yeah, that's referenced in the movie.
At the very beginning.
Yeah, are you the Willie Brown that he calls out to in the song? But I was going to ask you about that because you were saying about Tommy Johnson the other day, right, Amy? Not Robert Johnson, but Tommy Johnson.
Oh shoot!
Wasn't Tony?
Was it Thomas Johnson?
I think it was because that's what he was in Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?
Yeah, it's the same guy then. Yeah.
there was another guy,
Okay.
another Johnson, not related to Robert Johnson, that was famous for selling his soul at the Crossroads too. And sometimes the two stories overlap.
Oh, so they kind of get mixed up with each other.
It is Tommy Johnson.
And now Catherine is actually going to carry us when we go through the story part of this.
Okay.
Oh, because I wrote notes.
This director, I was telling Catherine when we were pre-called that this director is a man's director. Okay, he did Hard Times, which is one of my favorite movies about street fighting. Now, if you look at that movie, and if you look at the review I did, you can see that Charles Bronson may be an angel come to set everybody right. So, and there's that one. He did The Warriors, come out and play.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Southern Comfort about Cajuns hunting National Guards in the swamp and trying to kill them. 48 Hours, Streets of Fire, Crossroads, Red Heat, and then Geronimo, American Legend. This guy is an awesome director. This movie didn't live up to the quality that it could have been.
It wasn't as action-y, I guess, compared to the rest of them.
More story-driven, more personality.
Yeah, they made it for some holes. Well, and while you're talking about like a man's director, right? John Fusco, I think I'm saying it right, Fusco. He wrote the screenplay, and if I'm remembering it correctly, he might have written that at some point in high school. But he won a couple of screenwriting competitions in high school. One of them, he got a Nissan Sentra. It was a good motivator. Had a car.
Wow.
But
that's not bad.
As a teenager, he did actually, like, he's from up north, from Connecticut, I think. He did go and travel as a teen and play with blues bands. He went all through the South. And so he wrote the story inspired by his experience as a youth. But he also did the screenplay for Young Guns 1 and 2.
Oh, cool.
There's a couple others too. The Highwaymen, Thunderheart.
Thunderheart, yeah. That's an Indian down on the reservation.
Yes.
Yes, that's a very good movie. Very deep.
Mm-hmm. I had Sam Shepard in it.
Kiefer Sutherland, I believe. And rest in peace,
Rest in peace, Donald Sutherland.
Sad to see that. Oh, you know what I was going to say? Let me just say one thing before, and then I'll ask you again to summarize the story. This story is important. It's important to America. And this is not the last story or book or narrative that's going to be written about the Crossroads. All you got to do is reach out and grab a hold of it. And if you can't do it by yourself, reach out and grab somebody to come with you and help you get it done. This story can be written a lot of ways, a lot more time. So, Catherine, you've been kind of quiet tonight. Why don't you give us a lead on the story? Tell us the story.
Well, I'm sorry I'm not as funny as you two.
Work on that.
But, thanks.
I'm not even trying to be funny tonight. I'm trying to look intelligent.
Yeah, I'm playing this straight. What are you talking about?
Right.
Okay, so, this movie starts out with Eugene, who, again, I didn't find out his name was Eugene until like halfway through the movie. He is being classically trained on guitar at Juilliard, but he is serving two masters, as his professor says, and is really interested in the blues and stuff like that. He's in search of this 30th song that he thinks Robert Johnson had, but was never able to record and, put out there. So he does some research, and he is pretty sure that he finds the Willie Johnson that is referenced in the song
Willie Brown
by Robert Johnson. And I guess he just so happens to live in the same area as him in this nursing home. So he tries to talk to him, with just as a visitor, and gets told, go away. So he just happens to see that they're hiring janitors. So he takes a job as a janitor, and that's kind of his in. And he starts kind of talking to him and showing that he knows what he's talking about. And also he brings in his guitar and impresses him and stuff. So he tells Willie that he wants to record this 30th song. So Willie then is like, oh, well, that's going to get me out of this nursing home. So he agrees, as long as, Eugene takes him down to Mississippi. Well, of course, things go a little bit awry with that, because Ralph Macchio is only 17. I mean, I'm so sorry. Eugene is only 17.
Ralph
Doesn't have
Macchio
a
was
whole lot of money.
26.
Right, correct, yes. And doesn't have a whole lot of money, so he can get them to Memphis, but Willie Brown is supposed to pay for the rest. He's like, sure, I got it. Okay, fine. They get to Memphis. Palm Dog's got $40. So they're going to have to hobo. So they start hoboing and hitchhiking, and obviously Ralph Macchio's character is not super happy about that. It's right on the back of the truck chickens, and he's a little city boy. And they kind of, busk to try to make some money. And that's when we kind of run into Jamie Gertz's character. It's raining. Yes, Frances. Her name is Frances. For some reason, I thought it was Christina, and I kept writing Christina. And then all of a sudden, he was like, "Where's Frances?" And I was like, "Why Christina?" Anyway, so they meet Christine. No, they meet Frances after it's raining, and they see an abandoned house. So they go in there, and there just happens to be another person who's a hot young girl changing her clothes. And she turns on them with a knife and, is like, "Oh, I'm totally going to fight you." And Willie's like, "Yeah, all right, come on, bring it on. And immediately disarms her. So then somehow that makes her trust them. I don't know. They do the introduction. Yes, go ahead.
Because look, Willie Brown was old enough and experienced enough to know if you pull a weapon and you don't use it, you're going to be easy to overtake it. Yeah, you're not.
Yeah.
You're reluctant to use it. You don't hesitate.
Yes.
So Willie Brown took it down.
Yeah,
I think that. I think, but also you don't want to be caught in an abandoned house with a white girl, underage white girl, right? Or underage black girl.
And a minor that you've taken across the state lines.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna get you on the Mann Act.
Yeah, honestly, there's a lot of problems here.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, so we see they kind of just decide to go with her because she's trying to leave, and Willie Brown's like, that girl is gonna get way more rides than we are, so we need to follow her. So she's reluctantly letting them follow them, and that's when we see the whole scene with the racist bar owner or whatever, and also kind of definitely a creep,
a trafficker.
Mm-hmm.
A trafficker, that absolutely. And it really shows us that Ralph Macchio's character Eugene is very much not a badass at all, because she's like, "Get him," and he's like, "Ugh," and he messes that up entirely. So thankfully Willie had a gun on him, and they were able to
magic gun, because that gun disappeared when the police.
No.
It disappeared sometimes. No.
Well,
yeah, they did.
Maybe.
They did say Ralph Macchio's character Eugene was like, how did they not find your gun? And he was just like, don't say anything. And he just.
All right. So then, so I guess going on, and then Ralph Macchio, now you got me to it. Eugene and Frances fall desperately in love for a day.
Totally. Yep.
Yeah.
They have a sentimental moment in a hayloft.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As Southern people would. That's how the blues starts.
And then that's how they get arrested.
Stabby.
And we get a nice illustration of the Southern police. And they're like, "Well, here's the county line. This is a crime in my county, but if you walk over there, that's somebody else's problem."
Uh-huh.
And they took her money, and she got all upset about it. But he's like, "I don't know what you're talking about, but I can put you in jail if you'd rather."
Fairly indicative of
meet the new boss, same as the old boss, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And Willie has a really fun line. Hold on, let me see if I can find exactly what he said. He said, "Things seem to have changed in this county. Then again, they seem kind of the same, don't they?"
Yep.
So then they get to the hotel. Oh, sorry. Okay, and then they get to the hotel, and that's when he shows the drawing. "Have you seen this Crossroads?" And she's like, "I don't know." And so then they go to the separate bars, and one on one side is the white bar, one on the other side is the black bar, which, as from what I understand, it was filmed in Natchez, and that's Natchez is a pretty segregated place as far as I understand.
But there's a river on one side and bars on the other side, so there ain't no bars across the street.
There you go. Yeah.
And having spent my early childhood in South Mississippi, I think there is a tendency sometimes for people to segregate in smaller towns. But to me, it gave the appearance of legal segregation.
Separate but equal.
Yeah.
Plessy versus Ferguson. Sorry.
There wouldn't have been, and I didn't really delve into this too much. Willie kind of touched on it, but they didn't delve into the fact that this wasn't the legal segregation of Jim Crow. This was how the community carried themselves. I mean, it was still dangerous. It was still risky. But I have not personally seen something just so starkly divided.
Yeah.
That you didn't know if you were in the 60s or the 80s.
Yeah. You know, it's funny, in Natchez, there's a bar. It was a black bar, and a fire broke out. And it was the most people killed in a fire, except for that triangle fire in New York fire. And it wiped out a whole generation of black people in Natchez, basically. Couple hundred in that town. But that's just an aside. You got a little plaque there.
Wow.
Okay, so
the Rhythm Club fire.
Rhythm Club fire. So Willie goes and you check everything. You don't try to take nothing on faith, huh? So Willie goes and he plays the blues, and he does really good.
And so does Eugene, but of course they get back to the hotel afterwards, and Eugene's all excited and stuff, but Willie can't get the compliment, so he gets all upset about it.
Did Eugene deserve a compliment? He didn't deserve one.
What did he say? What did he say? You have a little bit of lightning in you? Because at some point, because Eugene Lightning,
they decided to call him Lightning. I don't really remember why.
And that was before the little game on the PlayStation with the lightning fingers, with the Guitar Hero.
Yeah, 15 years before Guitar Hero.
Right. So, Eugene says at some point, I'm no Robert Johnson, and Willie's like, "Oh, you sure the hell ain't." He's like,
yeah.
And on this side of it, that it is kind of arrogant to even speak like, I'm no this great person that's remembered for this musical history.
Yeah, you are.
You have a little bit of lightning
but
in you,
he wanted to be the one to record the song. He wanted to get famous. So his ego was a little bit big at that point,
So have to be to get in Juilliard.
A little. And blues should not be for fame.
I don't know. BB King owns a couple of restaurants and some bars, and
look, my daughter has an extra middle name, Lucille, after his guitar. I get it, but if you are a blues artist and you start off writing the blues and singing the blues, are you doing it for fame, or are you doing it because you're an artist that needs cathartic experience, a catharsis?
Yeah, according to Willie, blues ain't nothing but a good man feeling bad.
Not the woman that left. But I did watch a special about Robert Johnson, and they had a woman that knew him interviewed, and the guy asked her, "Did Robert sell his soul to the devil?" And she's like, "You're a musician too. Didn't you sell your soul to the devil for your music? Don't you give everything to your music?" And kind of a just interesting checkpoint on that.
Definitely. Speaking of, this is the part where Francis leaves the narrative forever and makes Eugene all sad. And we also find out that there was no song.
Oh, yeah.
So he's not going to be able to tell him about the song because there wasn't a song. It was all just an excuse to get out of the nursing home.
Fair enough. So then what happens? So keep going.
That's when they go to the LaFontaine house. We find out that, she's dead. And we meet the granddaughter, the whole part where they ask about the Crossroads. So they're very close at this point.
I thought it was interesting the choice of LaFontaine having more of that Creole, like the French, sounding name, which, I don't know, correct me here, would not necessarily be a prominent name in that area.
Shouldn't be that far north.
Yeah.
Because
so I felt like they were trying to, in the blues culture, merge between Memphis and New Orleans. As one big conglomerate.
But like the French, they went up to the river and built Natchez, which is a French town. And then they came down the river, and I'm pretty sure they were the ones that settled Memphis too, right? Who settled Memphis first?
I guess
Memphis is an Egyptian name.
That's true.
Memphis was founded in 1819 by John Overton, Andrew Jackson, and John Winchester.
Oh, well, excuse me then. Okay.
Of the Winchester Company?
I believe so.
So anyway, well, my whole point was the French were on the Mississippi River. There could have been a plantation owner, La Fontaine, but it's not very likely because these were much further south where it was probably safer down around New Orleans. Right. Okay, so they make it out to the Crossroads.
They do.
Whether it's real or imaginary.
Right, real or imaginary. And they get Eugene Plain to summon, Scratch, or Legba, or whatever you want to call him. And that's when a sports car, a nice little sports car, drives up, and we see the assistant. I don't really know
Joe Morton.
That's Joe Morton's character. He's an assistant. And he's got his nice little car, and he's got his lady in there, and Willie is like interrogating him. Hey, when is Scratch gonna come? Blah 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 or whatever. And they have their little conversation, and he offers him a ride, and he says, "No, thank you." And he says, "Suit yourself," and drives off. And then we see Scratch come walking down the road.
And then Eugene didn't realize that was a devil at this point. Eugene is stupid.
Well, how much of that really happened?
Yeah, I don't know. Okay, so the devil comes bouncing down the road.
Right. Eugene is stupid.
Eugene is stupid. He's 17. He's 17.
He's 17. He's from up north.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I'm telling you, an Appalachian or a Southern person would be like, yeah, that's the devil.
Nope.
Mm-hmm.
Even atheists don't know about.
Put your cross up.
Yeah. But he's like, oh, none of this is real anyway. Yeah, sure. I will accept your competition.
I mean, hello, you're standing in the middle of a dirt road. You know how vulnerable you are already just there in a dirt road in the Mississippi heat?
Mm-hmm.
Right. You could just die before you could get to a town just from walking. It's like a desert. It ain't beautiful like Willie Brown said it was. The most beautiful place in the world. No.
That was very funny. No.
All right.
No.
So Legba takes him down to the
get our competition. Yes, yeah.
Legba is to P. Diddy as Scratch is to Puff Daddy.
See? I told you.
No, I had it backwards. Legba is to Puff Daddy as Scratch is to P. Diddy. There we go.
Well, okay. Well, I told John earlier, I said that I thought the actor who played him kind of looked a little bit like P. Diddy.
I'm just talking about the name change.
I got it. No, I figured that out.
Actually, no, but I can kind of see that.
Because I looked him up too, because I was like, well, this guy looks so familiar. I'm sure he's been in a bunch of things. And then I noticed that, it was really like some Broadway stuff and like really not much other than this movie. Like there wasn't even a picture of him on his Wikipedia page. That's how you know. That's a good measure.
It seems like he's been in a lot of stuff. That is weird.
He's familiar. That face
looks familiar.
Movies. Yeah.
That's because he's the devil. He really is the devil.
He really is the devil. So they have the competition. We've already talked about the guitar face. And then Eugene wins because of he reverts back to his classic.
He served two masters.
Yeah. Can you serve two masters? That's the question I want to ask y'all. Can you serve two masters?
Well, I mean, jack of all trades, master of none.
Yeah,
but then you're the master of none.
Yeah. Are you serving two masters? I think you can. There's a great Jackie Chan movie called Snake and Eagle's Shadow, and that's the same thing. Can you serve two karate styles? That's the same question they're asking.
I'm all for versatility. Yeah. I am all for multitasking, except no one really can effectively multitask. You might for a minute, you might for a little bit, but overall as a lifestyle, you can't serve two masters.
I will fight with my students on that all the time.
Yeah. I fight with myself on that all the time.
I found that to be foolish. And if you just work on one thing long enough, you'll get it done. Like a story or a book or a podcast. So anyway, he beats the guitar player. The guy walks off in shame. Now, when you win the contest against the devil, is it wrong to stay there and have a little party with the devil and just jam it up for all the demons and stuff that are around? Or should you leave immediately?
You should probably just leave.
I thought so.
I think you should. I think that's smart advice. But again, serving two masters, I see nothing wrong with gloating for a minute.
I'll just entertain these people.
Bet, you son of a bitch. I'm the best it's ever been.
Best it's ever been.
Yeah, well, as soon as he got the golden fiddle, that was it. It was like he didn't hang around and talk, Okay.
No, but it is interesting because right after that, you see like Eugene kind of go like look around a little bit, like what
Oh,
just because it's
I
like,
didn't notice that.
did that even happen? Oh yeah.
Oh,
He's like, did that even happen? Because then Willie's like, what are you like hanging around for? Let's go. You know what I mean?
yeah. And then
So
that's
it's
when
almost
Willie.
like Eugene was there and Willie wasn't, but like, hard to say.
So then Willie's not a mean guy anymore, and he's like, I'm going to take you this far, and we're going to do this, and so he didn't have those hellhounds. That's where I got the hellhounds were no longer on his trail.
Yep.
So he could chill out a little bit, and they walk off live happily ever after.
Oh, you don't know that.
Well,
they walk off happily ever
into the sunset.
I mean, Frances, who knows how much trauma she's racked up on top of her existing trauma already.
Okay, Frances. Jamie Gertz. I'm driving through Louisiana, Mississippi, right? Jamie Gertz is out hitchhiking. Where are you going? Los Angeles. I'll drive you there. You don't have to ask for another ride. I'll take you all the way. Right? She was too pretty to be out on the road like that, living that life. They should have made her rougher. It's a hard life.
But that wouldn't have sold. I mean,
she living the life star.
Living the life she would have been living in less than zero.
Yeah.
She looked, she's just naturally very pretty.
So I'll make her just the devil's temptress then to try and derail the partnership.
See, I just think it was just, I'm with Catherine.
She was just a plot device.
She was a plot device. Yeah, she was propelling the plot.
Yeah, I know. I mean, that's what she did. She dragged the plot a little forward, but I can make her, a devil spawn if I want. Because after she was, that was not nice. That was not nice at all.
That's getting cut.
No, I'm going to loop it and put it on TikTok.
Don't loop that.
God almighty. So that's when she was a vampire. And after she died as a vampire, you see, she came back to work for the devil.
Oh,
clearly.
So it's all in the same universe.
So now we're in a universe. Okay, yeah. Actually, I love this.
Y'all are talking about plot devices and stuff like that. I'm talking about this is real, man. This devil's moving this pawns and bishops and checkmates and stuff going on.
Except you're an atheist.
Oh, so does that have to do with anything?
Normally these conversations happen with like zealots.
Well, but like in Lord of the Rings, the Sauron was trying to stop them before they get there. The best way to fight an enemy is to make sure they never get to the place where the fight's going to happen, right?
Absolutely.
So you can put another dimension in it. Check that movie out, Hard Times, because Charles Bronson is definitely an angel sent to make everything right. And you'll know that because of the cat. Watch it or listen to my review. The link's in the description.
Okay.
All right. So that's the story. Let's just wrap this up. We're just at an hour. This is perfect. So, Jamie, what do you want to wrap up and say at the end of all this?
At the end of the day, I think the work you're doing with your reviews is really fun because it's bringing life back to a lot of movies we've kind of forgotten that aren't our major rotation, and we can look at it from a different lens. I like it. I enjoy that. It was fun.
Just trying to keep the synapses firing for a little longer.
I understand.
They're trying to quit, but I'm working on them. Jamie, Catherine, whoever you are.
Whichever one you are.
Synapses right there.
Uh-oh. Thank you for having us on to talk about this movie. I mean, it is a movie that I do remember watching as a kid, and I mean, it clearly had an influence on me. And when I wrote that short story and stuff, so I don't know. I mean, I think it is a fun one, but I agree with Jamie that it's maybe one that's less thought about. Like, I told people that I was doing this podcast, and they were like, "You mean the Britney Spears movie?"
Yes, I got that too.
I had no idea
I'm not even in the generation for that. I was a little old for that.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't even know that existed.
Yes.
Well, I appreciate you both being on here. I know it takes a lot of time and effort to get here and get on and get your tech people to set you all up and everything. But it'll be easier next time, I guarantee you. Okay, you're both Southern people. Have you all known any witches, conjurers, spell people, magic people in your lives?
I think he wants us to say him.
No.
I know. I know a lot of people that talk about that and believe that. There is a story in our family that we had a family member that was a fire talker, that he could heal burns. And that's part of our family lore.
And curses on people, potions. No, not ringing any bells. We need to talk some more.
Who? When you say potions, do you mean like cocktails?
No, I mean like poultices and stuff.
Oh
Poultice.
no. I don't think about that a lot. Because to me, yes, a lot of people, especially like on social media, be like, "Oh, witchcraft," and it may be a part of your practice, but also if your family has been rooted in like Appalachian culture, for example, or another culture that was really strong and living, in more rural areas, or had access to different plants and herbs and so forth. And that's natural medicine before modern medicine was a thing. So yeah, that I've seen that a lot, actually.
A lot of that was in that book that you recommended to me. I can't remember pull the name of it right now.
Backwoods Magic.
Backwoods Magic. Yeah, you just had to do the healing because you didn't have any other option.
And I mean, and there is stuff to be said about natural medicine. I mean, some of it, there are some things that are effective.
Oh yeah. Like putting a piece of potato slice on a infected wound will draw the poison out.
The poison or the infection?
Infection. That's poison, isn't it?
Technically, because of sepsis. Right. Do you know anybody like that?
I'll say it after we say bye. Okay.
I had a friend who lived in California who worked with Egyptian deities, if that does anything for you.
Okay, not where I was going. Look, I appreciate y'all taking the time. I'll get this packaged up. It'll take several weeks, but then I'll release it on my YouTube channel, and I appreciate it because the goal of this channel is to introduce people to movies that they haven't seen and remind them of good movies that they have seen. So I think this was a very good job at that. Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.